In the winter of 1869, 29-year-old artist Claude Monet packed up his gear and went out to walk in the countryside near Atelier in Normandy. He was disillusioned by the traditional teachings of the art institution of his time. He was rejected from most salons, he was broke, and after attempting suicide in 1868, he still found the energy to discover a new approach to painting. Rather than copying the old masters, he spent most of his time trying to paint what he saw and working mostly plein air. With a bold use of colors and broken brushstrokes, he came up with what would later be called the Impressionist movement, based on this painting, which is called Impression Rising Sun. So in 1869, Impressionism wasn't even a thing officially yet, and in the cold winter, Monet painted this painting, which is one of his most famous snowscapes. He did many of them, but this is one of the most famous. So today, in this episode of Learning from the Masters, we're going to see what we can learn as modern artists from this great masterpiece. We're going to see what we can learn about the composition and about the color. Alright, so first let's talk about the composition and especially the balance and unbalance of the horizon. This simple composition gives the landscape a very quiet appearance, showing the simple nature of this late winter's afternoon. Everything feels very peaceful and stable, yet there is a very strong dynamism in the composition. So how did Monet achieve that? He did what I would call kill the horizon line. You can spot the horizon line here, and you can see that Monet's effort was to make it as subtle as possible and as blurry as possible to recreate the effect of the mist. So first of all, he kills this line by making it more blurry. And the next thing he does is cut this line with all the verticals, the trees, creating unbalance. So he will kill the line and make it less apparent with all the trees. And there's another effect that Monet creates to kill this monotony of this line is find a spot where the fence is at a very slight angle so that there are dynamic lines that are not all following the horizon line and that are sort of putting more focus on this part right here, which is great because this is where the magpie is. And the last thing he does is to use these diagonal shadows because the light source is hidden somewhere on the other side of the canvas, and the shadows go in this direction, which also kills the monotony of the horizon line. So this both creates something very stable. You can see the true horizon line right here. It creates something very stable. There is all the stability of this line, but still all the other lines kind of break the monotony and create something very dynamic. You also have something that's used in the vertical composition, not the horizontal but vertical, and vertically you have two main masses. This one, there's a big block right here with the houses and lots of things happening in there in the background. So one big block here, and there's a smaller block here with a lot of empty space in the middle. Like vertically, that's how the horizon, the landscape is articulated. And you'd think, well, it's very unbalanced. But the good thing is that because the focus is here on the magpie, it's sort of like, you know, you have a balance, and this is a small thing that's very heavy, and this is a big bag of, I don't know, feathers. And because this part right here is it weighs a lot, it's going to recreate the balance but with more dynamism. So it's a lot more balanced actually than just creating something symmetrical. It's breaking the symmetry, but it's still keeping the things very stable. So that, combined with the slight angles, creates something very subtle, very balanced, and very dynamic at the same time. Now, of course, with an impressionist like Monet, the second lesson that we can learn from this masterpiece is that the sky is not blue, shadows are not gray, and snow is not white. And Monet demonstrates how all the traditional approach to color has to be revised based on a new approach. Many artists before the Impressionists believe that, shadows just need to be a darker version and less chromatic, so desaturated version of the local color. So if you have an orange object, the shadow of this orange object is just a brown. But Monet showed that, it doesn't always work like this, and that shadows have to be interpreted within their context. So let's first jump into the most striking thing there is. These shadows. Where does this blue come from? Well, the blue doesn't come from nowhere. It actually comes from the sky. It's an effect of aerial perspective. The sky operates as a sort of a light scattering diffuser, and the blue is more scattered than the other wavelengths of light. So this is why the sky appears blue, and this is why objects illuminated by the sky also have slightly bluish shadows. And this is specifically visible on snow, because snow is a giant reflector for the bluish tendencies that the sky can put on every object. So actually, this blue on the snow that you can see here, it actually comes from the sky around. But you would say, well, the sky is not blue. It's actually slightly creamy. It's kind of yellowish creamy. It's more warm than cool. So how come these shadows are these cool and the sky is not blue? Where does it come from? So you have to remember that the sun is somewhere here. It's also covered by mist in the distance. So you can't see the blue sky here because it's not a perfectly clear sky. You have some mist that create this grayish, buttery appearance. But you can still imagine that on the opposite side of the sun, behind where Monet is standing right now, the sky is actually blue, which would mean that all the light coming from this direction is reflected on the blue surfaces that you can see here. And this is actually what happens. The sky is not uniform, so you have to imagine a big globe. Maybe there's mist in this area that's visible, but maybe behind Monet's back is a bright blue sky. Who knows? And it looks actually way more realistic than if, I don't know, he just painted the snow with white and the shadows with gray, like black and white. This wouldn't work in this case. Now, with this blue, Monet creates something that's actually a better impression of the actual appearance of snow than a purely theoretical approach using black and white. So the sky is not blue, the shadows are not gray, and more specifically, and with even more determination, Monet showed that snow is not even white. So I'm going to put some white on the canvas so that you can see the difference. And of course, you have to imagine that the reproduction doesn't have perfect accurate colors, but you can still compare this. It's kind of an old reproduction, so you see that the white has kind of faded, but this is the pure white from the paper, and this is the white that you can see on Monet's painting. You can see that he never actually used any of the pure white, not even in the background. You can see the clear difference between pure white and what Monet used. He actually used shades of very light gray, like creamy gray, like beige, light bluish gray. But if you use pure white on the canvas appearing like this, it's going to look very artificial. What you want to do instead is take some of your colors and pollute the white. You can create bluish effects, bluish shadows. You can create yellowish effects in beige. Or you can even use what Monet did here in these parts, is use small touches of red, sort of creating a very, very subtle accent that's not visible at all. Actually, it's not an accent, but it's just an effect of light, of how light kind of scatters. So instead of using pure white, which is very harsh, start with a white base and then pollute it with other pigments. You allow the white to become less white and less pure. The purity of the white is not going to create a better impression of the snow. It's actually how the white reflects the chromatic properties of the atmosphere that's going to create a very realistic impression of the snow. And this is the kind of effects that Monet was known for. You can see right here, you have some touches of red around the trees to create these effects. You have here it's mostly blue, like we said earlier. You have some orangey parts right here, which is all white polluted with very, very small touches of a polluted mixture. Alright, thank you very much for watching this episode of Learning from the Masters. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe if it's not already the case. If you want to learn more about oil painting, you can check out my oil painting course, and you'll find all the links in the description box. I also need to give a big thank you to all my patrons on Patreon. Your support really means a lot to me. I hope to see you for the next episode, and until then, have fun painting. Bye.